In this video, we're talking about all the possible matchups for each Straw Hat. It's gonna be fun, so let's get right to it. Short disclaimer though, obviously, since this is a war, each and every Straw Hat will fight against some fodder, elite gifters, and headliners. So I won't mention them as much as possible so we can save time. Now, please remember that we don't really know everything about Kaido and Big Mom's crew, their crew members, and their abilities. And since the Straw Hats only encountered a few of them, well, Luffy did most of the encountering. But since there are limited characters introduced in Kaido's crew, and a lot of them have unique circumstances, like Drake, who is actually a spy, more so than Big Mom's crew, there would be a lot of overlaps in matchups. But anyway, let's start with Nami. I feel like she's in the weirdest position out of all of the Straw Hats in terms of combat. I seriously think that Nami is very strong. I feel like she would be stronger than a lot of captains that are dominating Paradise or the first half of the Grand Line. And having said that, in my opinion, she is the second best fodder clearer of the crew. And she's only next to Zoro. And by this I mean that her attacks usually target a big area, and she would be great against characters that are unaffected by Luffy's Conqueror's Haki. For example, the gifters in Kaido's crew. They're strong and most of them are unaffected by Haoshoku. And Nami can clear these gifters fairly easily, making her the best fodder clearer in the crew because Zoro would be much more suited to go one-on-one with the enemy crew's best swordsman, and not necessarily the second strongest of their opponents. Now, Nami's techniques are very unique, manipulating the elements with her great command of the weather in combination with her knowledge of navigation. With the way the story is being told, I feel like it's highly unlikely that Nami goes one-on-one with anybody. I feel like the numbers advantage go in the way of Kaido and Orochi, and she really is the best Straw Hat for clearing the fodder anyway. But if Nami does match up one-on-one, the best fight scenarios for her are one of the women in the Oniwabanchu, since Oda loves matching up females against females. Now, if Shinobu does end up betraying the samurai, then she would be a great fight for Nami. I do think that it's more likely that Nami would fight alongside an ally, not necessarily a Straw Hat. A group fight scenario with Black Maria and her numbers or Orochi are obviously ideal, and if the Big Mom pirates do show up, maybe she could take on Charlotte Compote or Bruye. I don't know how to pronounce it, so please forgive me. But anyway, next we have Usopp. I feel like God Usopp is really a good alias or epithet for Usopp. I feel like Usopp's Kenbunshoku Haki, or Observation Haki, would be really tested in this arc. At first I thought that he'd be a matchup with Flampe, because he's basically the brat killer in the Straw Hat crew. First it was Perona, and then we got Sugar. Both were defeated by Usopp, so that's why I thought that way. But you never know. Oda doesn't disappoint. So this is one possible fight for Usopp if the Big Mom pirates end up arriving in Onigashima in time. I feel like his main role right now is to back the Straw Hats or other allies up with their major fights. We haven't really seen Usopp take on another sniper, so it would be interesting if he does that in this arc. But there aren't any snipers being introduced yet, so fingers crossed. But he could end up fighting with the Oniwabanchu as well as Fukurokuju. They can definitely be a great matchup for him. We all know that Usopp has gotten stronger, but I'm not willing to put him in the Tobiropo level just yet. That's why I think that he has a better chance of fighting one-on-one with the Oniwabanchu. But gauging Usopp, I think that he's around elite headliner level, just like Apu is. And speaking of Apu, I know that most fans would love to see Kid versus Apu because of all the bad blood there, and I certainly do want to see that fight go down too. But I think that Usopp is a better match against Apu just because of his godly range. And if this fight happens, Oda could showcase Usopp's Kenbunshoku Haki. But this fight does seem unlikely to happen. A wild guess would be that he would match up against the numbers in some sort of David and Goliath kind of thing, with the help of Robin and the others. Or if Big Mom's crew comes, he'll probably end up traumatizing brats again. So I'm calling the fight with Flampe right now. Next, we move on to Chopper. I really love thinking about who Chopper will fight in this arc because there are so many possibilities. In my mind, he fits right into almost any matchup against the Beast Pirates crew. And actually, I'd love to see Chopper fight harder this time around because the last time we saw Chopper fight was so long ago. I think it was back in Fishman Island, and it was just too easy for him. But maybe, in the Wano arc, Chopper could awaken his haki in the fights he takes part in, particularly his Busoshoku haki. I see Chopper more as an armament haki type of character, but Ken Bunshoku, or observation haki, can boost his brain point form. So Chopper is really an interesting character because he can definitely benefit more so than the normal person in the One Piece world from getting Busoshoku haki and Ken Bunshoku haki. Anyway, he has 7 forms and could fight with a lot of characters in Wano. When he eats the Rumble Ball and becomes Monster Chopper, he could match up with the numbers and possibly Black Maria. And if he goes Horn Point, he could match up with Ulti if ever that she wakes up again. If he goes Heavy Point, he could match up with Page 1. But anyway, I'm quite excited to see each of these in action. It would be a bit disappointing to see any of the Straw Hats fight with Page 1 right now because of how Sanji made him look too easy. And Luffy really hammered the nails in Page 1's coffin after his elephant gun. But maybe Page 1 is okay after that punch, and it just so happens that Yamato took the spotlight so quickly that Page 1 couldn't recover in time, and they got away from him. But going back to Chopper, I wanna say that the best matchup for Chopper right now among the Tobiropo is Who's Who, or maybe Sasaki, if he gets untied. If the Big Mom Pirates do show up, it would be hard to guess who he matches up with there, since we don't have much to go on. There's no bad blood, and not a lot of special abilities that match well with Chopper. But if I had to guess, someone like Opera or Mont d'Or, one of the officers in Big Mom's crew. Now that we're done with the Straw Hat Crew's so-called weakling trio, we sing along with Brook to the tune of Tatakaw music. A music battle with Apu would be the first time we would ever see it in action throughout the course of the story, and it's something that Oda could creatively make. I do think that since Brook has no ears, you could argue that he will be unaffected by Apu's devil fruit powers. But he could still technically hear it, so I'm not sure how that matchup will play out. I do know that most fans think that this would be the best case scenario for Brook, or the best fight scenario for Brook, but for me, I would rather see Brook take on Sasaki. I'm just hoping that this would happen, but I do think that this won't be the case. I just want to see it happen. But because Sasaki has fire designs all over his clothes, I assume that he could generate fire with the slashes he makes. And with the matchup of fire and ice, I think that fire would win just because I'm judging from how Oda depicted Aokiji versus Ace in Marineford, where fire melted ice and it was basically a draw, and obviously Akainu versus Aokiji, which messed up Punk Hazard and Aokiji ultimately lost. Personally, I think that Sasaki is more likely to fight with Kinemon since Kinemon cuts fire. But I really would like to see Brook fight Sasaki one-on-one. Because I think in that fight, Brook could awaken his haki and potentially defeat Sasaki, a Tobiropo level character. To be very frank, I think that Brook would lean towards observation haki more so than armament haki, but he would definitely benefit more if he strengthened his armament haki. But in any case, he might awaken his haki later on in the story, past the Wano arc, because I doubt that Oda will have more than 3 Straw Hats learn haki in one arc. But whatever the case may be, I think that Brook would likely match up with Who's Who instead. I recently watched a video from Sawyer7Mage, and he thinks that Who's Who has the saber-toothed tiger devil fruit. And if that was the case, Brook, being able to use ice in his sword techniques, would be a pretty good fight for Sasaki. Now, in the scenario that Brook fights with Big Mom's crew, I would love to say that he ends up fighting an officer that I would love to see more of. And I really hope he fights with Raisin. Raisin is a very interesting character. He's all serious, with a scar like Zoro. I think he could be a great matchup with Brook. Hopefully, we get to see the Big Mom pirates in action in Wano. I think that Luffy's group accomplished so much in Whole Cake Island without fighting like 90% of Big Mom's crew in a long drawn out battle like Luffy versus Katakuri, which is still great for the story, but it's a shame really, not being able to see all of those characters do their thing. Now, we're shoving past Brooke and we're getting handsy with Robin because she's hot and her character appeals to me a lot, especially her dark humor. Robin is pretty strong and is very tactical with her approaches. Since she's walking along with Jinbei, they probably won't encounter anyone anytime soon. Except maybe for Big Mom. But I don't think they would team up against Big Mom right away. Though I think that Robin is more likely to match up with Black Maria, since Black Maria is a giant and Robin can use Gigantesco Mano. This would be the most obvious matchup aside from Luffy versus Kaido. She might not even get help from Usopp, Nami, or Chopper in this fight, and she would still be okay against Black Maria. Also, her escape from the Oniwabanchu may make her a great target for the ninja group. But seeing how the Oniwabanchu almost killed her if not for her clone jutsu, she would surely die if she takes on the Oniwabanchu alone because of how the Oniwabanchu cornered her back in Orochi's castle. Now, Robin is mostly calm and collected, so I do think that she won't take that personally against the Oniwabanchu. But it would certainly be a great fight to see. Now, in my eyes, Robin is above elite headliner level, but not quite Tobiropo level, just like how Brooke is. And fighting with the likes of Apu should be a fairly easy match for her. Apu's devil fruit is so strong, but it would be useless if Robin could disable him before he does anything. She could stop Apu from using his extremities and making those sound waves, so he can't use his devil fruit abilities, and then he can just choke him out. Anyway, these are the best matchups for Robin, in my opinion. And I don't really see her fighting against other characters, except for brief backup and cleanup duties for the father. Now, with Big Mom's crew though, she might help against Big Mom, but he doesn't like that kind of thing and he prefers to fight one on one. And because of this, I'd like to see her take on Amanda, even though Amanda is a swordswoman. Well, most of the women in Big Mom's crew wield the sword, so if she does take on a female, it's probable that she fights with the swordswoman. And another great matchup for her is one of the women in Smoothie's ship, Cinnamon or Citron. I like the prospect of Robin fighting Citron because Citron has this dominatrix kind of vibe, so that's kind of hot. Sorry for being a bit creepy there. It just means that we're transitioning onto hentai territory to talk about Franky. Franky is an interesting case. He's very strong and is in the same class as Brooke and Robin, but right now he's above elite headliner level and borderline Tobiropo level. The only thing holding Franky back from achieving clear Tobiropo status is really just hockey in my opinion. And here's why. For you to become a Tobiropo, you would have to be a very strong pirate in the New World. And pirates in the New World that are very strong and have gained a great reputation usually can use hockey. And the only exceptions that I could think of are Jinbei and Cavendish. Because I don't ever recall him being able to use hockey. I might be wrong, so please do correct me if I am, down at the comment section below. But somebody like him might make the cut if he was able to control his alter ego all the time. Making sure that he's able to use Hakuba's skill will definitely secure him a spot in the Tobiropo. He is that strong. For Frankie, however, I feel like even though he has lasers from Vegapunk, destructive rockets, and durable Wapo metal armor, he still isn't quite there yet. Obviously, Frankie is the strongest out of the three, Robin, Frankie, and Brooke. But to me, he's clearly still just the fifth strongest Straw Hat. Yes, the Straw Hat crew is very strong, but I believe that he still needs to learn hockey to become a clear Tobiropo level character. And he might achieve this during the Wano arc. This is why I want him to fight Drake, because beating Drake means he is well above Tobiropo level and is much nearer to the Yonko Commander level type of character. I understand that this fight is probably not going to happen because I do believe that Drake is still doing his sword duties. And if Drake were to fight, it's probably more of pretend and probably not as serious as ex-Drake fans would like to have. Page 1 might be the most likely candidate right now because Franky would probably end up fighting the Tobiropo or one of the officers of the Big Mom Pirates. But I do hope we end up seeing a Drake and Franky matchup. And if Franky wins that fight, he will surely become a hell of a lot stronger. Now, if Franky fights the officers of the Big Mom Pirates, I'm with the community, and I do think that a fight with Daifuku would be the greatest option right there, just because of how similar they are. Although the hockey-clad genie might be too much for Franky's Wapo Metal, so I do think that he needs to learn hockey to overcome Daifuku as well. I mean, we all saw how his fight with Senor Pink went. It was a close match, and Senor Pink wasn't even using hockey. So if Franky would fight Daifuku, he really needs to learn hockey. I know this fight might be wishful thinking, but I do think that it's the most exciting fight that Franky could take against the Big Mom Pirates. Now, moving on, we surf along with Jinbei, and we ride out onto the front lines. I previously mentioned in one of my power scaling videos that Jinbei was arguably the second strongest Straw Hat, because at the time, Zoro was potentially the strongest Straw Hat, and Sanji was just testing out his raid suit. So I mentioned that Zoro could have been the strongest Straw Hat at that point. Jinbei could have been stronger or just as strong as Luffy at that time. And then right below these three was Sanji. In any case, Jinbei would be a great fight against Queen or Jack. Either one of them is fine, but I'm leaning towards wanting Jinbei to fight Queen. But I do think that Oda will pit him against Jack, just because Sanji is number 3 or third in the Japanese language. Personally, I just want to see Jinbei against Queen because he's really bulky like Jinbei, and a Brachiosaurus form probably won't be too quick, and it's going to be more of a battle of strength rather than speed. And Jinbei, being as agile as he is, can definitely hold himself against Queen. I do think he would be a great match for Jack too, and this fight is definitely the more predictable one, just because Jinbei is a fishman and Jack is a fishman as well. Obviously, there's a very high chance, like 99% chance, that they know each other, since Fishman Island isn't the biggest place in the One Piece world. So if this fight does happen, there might be a good backstory waiting for us there, which I'm definitely up for. And potentially, Jack could be turned into an ally after he gets beaten, if Jinbei and Jack have a good relationship. And certainly, he would be a powerful ally for any crew. We still don't know if the silhouette stalking Jinbei and Robin a few chapters back is a friendly or an enemy. So this would be one of the possible matches that Jinbei could have in the very near future. We all know that the theme for Kaido's crew is related to cards or card games, and to our knowledge, there are giants in Kaido's crew that are called the Numbers. And right now, we know that they're 1 through 9 because of a giant laughing like QQQ, or number 9 in Japanese. So we know that there are at least 9 giants in Kaido's crew. We are currently missing the number 10 and an ace. The Joker could have been Doflamingo, since Joker is his alias. So the Joker might already check out. The silhouette could be the ace or the number 10. But after reading a few posts on my Facebook feed, it seems that Yamato being the ace is a fairly popular opinion. But moving back to Jinbei, he also has a history with Big Mom's crew. And there definitely is some bad blood there. Ex-Sweet Commander Snack can be a great match against Jinbei, but he's well suited for a fight against Daifuku as well. Personally, I think Jinbei could take Daifuku on better than Franky right now, simply because he has proven that he's capable of dealing with hockey users with his Fishman Karate. And these are the two best fights that Jinbei could take right now, because Katakuri, Cracker, and Oven don't seem to be riding along with the rest of the crew. Now, we kick off with Sanji, and I'm all excited to see Sanji's antics, but we're talking about his possible matchups today, and I have to say that he's probably going to end up fighting Queen, because Odo loves his patterns. I do think that he's the most suited to fight Queen, because I feel like he will be too fast for Queen to handle, making him the best matchup for Queen. We still don't know just how strong Orochi is, as well as his Oniwabanchu. And if Kyoshiro or Denjiro is the strongest ally he's got, then there's no reason for the world government to be scared of Wano. So we're definitely missing a lot of key characters from Orochi's crew. I mean, Denjiro might be the strongest or the second strongest of the scabbards, so that accounts for what? Admiral level strength? And that's definitely something to be cautious of. But if there's only one person capable of taking on an admiral in Orochi's group, then it's going to be an easy fight for one strong pirate crew. Provided Kaido's crew is backing up Orochi, but still. Now, comparing it to Big Mom's crew, the number of officers in Big Mom's crew are so large when you put it side by side with Kaido's current known crew. And we still have the samurai, the minks, and the scabbards that are free to match up with. So it's possible that we get introduced to the samurai in Orochi's group, or more heavy hitters from Kaido's crew. The even bigger possibility is that Sanji saves Nami's group from Big Mom, and he ends up stalling for time against Big Mom while everyone else is busy before taking his big fight against Queen. I feel like Sanji is capable of dealing with Big Mom now with the power up from his raid suit. Obviously, he's not going to beat Big Mom just like that. So I do believe that if he fights with Big Mom, he's just gonna stall for time. Because number one, it's Big Mom. And because Sanji is very much known for his chivalry. We haven't even seen Big Mom use Haki a lot, and she defended against Brook easily and did so much damage to Big Father, Whole Cake Island, the other cities, as well as the pirates in the New World, including her own children. So yeah, I don't feel that Sanji would be able to beat Big Mom that way, even with his raid suit. And if Sanji ends up taking fights against Big Mom's crew, assuming they come up in time, I hope it's against Oven, so they can finally settle things. Yes, we haven't seen Oven on the ship, but he could have been resting inside since he's been banged up by Sanji and run over by the Nostra Castella, Beji's amphibious ship. Other prospects of Sanji's fights would be page 1. Obviously, he would be furious to see Sangoro again, and possibly Daifuku because of their encounter back in the big wedding crash and when the Big Mom pirates were chasing the Straw Hats in the Sunny, as well as ex-Commander Snack. But for now, we cut to Zoro and have fun with his matchups. Obviously, Zoro is strong. Just how strong is Zoro? We can't gauge properly, because the only fights that really gave Zoro a challenge was the fight against Fujitora, the Marine Admiral, and the other one that actually did some damage to him was Kamazo, who was actually killer. But I don't feel like their fight was even close. I think that Killer is on Apu's level, and Zoro is arguably Yonko Commander level since way back from Dressrosa, and he's only getting stronger. I feel like he's not going to fight anyone anytime soon, and he's probably going to get lost first, like Oda foreshadowed when Luffy and Zoro first took off upon arriving in Onigashima. But for possible matchups, I'm really curious if Zoro will really take on King, because King is a swordsman too. But I feel like King, being so similar to Marco, is better matched with Marco, because they are both flying types and both first commanders in their respective crews. And they definitely know each other. I'm sure that at some point in the past, Kaido and Whitebeard's crew clashed against each other. So I'm sure that Marco and King know each other. But I do think that it's probable that Zoro and King would end up clashing. Now, other notable fights that Zoro might take are the samurai in Orochi's group, Sasaki and Drake from the Tobiropo, as well as the officers in the Big Mom Pirates. Now, I don't think that Drake would size Zoro up during this arc because he's undercover and is doing his sword duties. It would be smart for him to gauge just how strong the Straw Hat crew is. And yes, I know that Mihawk told Zoro that a great swordsman would know the differences in strength without having to draw his sword. But he took a swing at Whitebeard just to somewhat accurately gauge how strong Whitebeard is. Other fights for Zoro might be Hawkins before he finally decides to reveal himself as a betrayer and help turn the tide into the favor of the Straw Hat, Samurai, Mink, Heart and Kid Pirates' favor. I would love to see them settle the fight back when Luffy first arrived in Wano. That was such an awesome fight, but I think that Zoro is well above Hawkins' level. I just want to see them settle things. But anyway, I don't believe that Zoro would take group fight scenarios, except when taking Kaido or Big Mom on. Speaking of Big Mom, I think that Cracker is the best fight for Zoro, even though we already saw Luffy and Nami defeat Cracker. And we still haven't seen Cracker on the ship. I still do think that this is the best fight scenario for Zoro against the Big Mom pirates. In the case that Oda decides to have Zoro go against Smoothie, I don't think that it'll be until Zoro defeats Smoothie completely. Because Zoro is a bit like Sanji. He's chivalrous too, and he has never fought with Tashigi to the point where he actually hurt her. And for the Snow Harpy, Monet, I think that little love tap was super situational, where Zoro was left with no choice but to do that so he could save Tashigi. It was really a choice between two devils. He either does nothing and lets Tashigi get so much damage, and it would be just as bad, or worse, Tashigi could have flat out lost, and the poison cloud gets to them, or he shoots a shot, and that little love tap onto Monet's face. Wait, that sounded weird. Let me rephrase. Or Zoro distracts Monet with a little flick so he could stop Monet's onslaught. So I do think that he doesn't want to fight with Smoothie, even though Smoothie is strong enough to be considered a Yonko commander. But then again, competitiveness might take over, and the desire of becoming the world's best swordsman would let us see this fight happen. Hopefully, in Wano. Next, I'm inserting a bonus matchup review, so get ready to get shocked. By Carrot. In my next Nakama video, I talked about Carrot being the most likely candidate for the next Nakama, which is why I'm including her in this video for matchups, as a bonus review for you guys. And I think that as awesome as Carrot is, she does have some limitations. She's strong enough to fight against hockey users with her Electro, but I don't think I would classify her at the Tobiropo level in her base Mink form. In her Sulong form, that's a whole other story. She might be borderline Tobiropo level, or she might be as strong as a Yonko commander. But she's definitely an interesting character to say the least, and the best thing about her is that she's basically the crew's first female hand-to-hand combatant, if she does join. I know that Robin technically does hand-to-hand combat, but I don't really consider Robin as a close hand-to-hand combatant because of her devil fruit abilities. Comparing Robin to an RPG character, she's basically a type of mage. Now, going back to Carrot though, I'd love to see her in action against Big Mom for a bit, but obviously it's just to deter her attacks. I would also love to see her take on one of the Tobiropo. If Ulti wakes up, she might be a good fight with Carrot too, especially when Carrot is in her Sulong form. But Drake or Page 1 are great fights for her too. To be frank, I just really want her to go one-on-one so we can finally see the extent of the power of the Sulong form. Now, for Big Mom's crew, there's no doubt in my mind that she would go for Pero. And here's why. She could have taken Pedro's last actions to heart, and then it becomes her mission to stop Pero from doing any kind of harm to the Straw Hat crew, as well as the samurai's operations in Onigashima. This is obviously the best fight scenario for Carrot, whatever happens, hands down. Because there's a lot of history there, and Pedro did technically sacrifice himself because of Pero. So I'm definitely hyped up to see the Energizer Bunny take on the determined Pero that wreaks havoc in Onigashima. Other possible fights for Carrot would be the Oniwabanchu as well as Orochi because they seem to be the rescue unit for Momonosuke. And finally, we switch into Overdrive and ride with Luffy into the spotlight. Luffy's major fights are so straightforward, Kaido and Big Mom. But the fights in between are what really took me some time to finish this video. I really thought about how strong Luffy was, and how Oda can make Luffy look like the underdog, as well as which fights could make Luffy pop off and look Yonko ready. Seeing all of the fights that he took, I think that he's already being viewed as too much of an underdog already. I mean, Oda loves doing this to Luffy because basically all of the major fights that Luffy has been in, from Arlong to Kaido, it's Luffy the underdog. And really, after that one shot from Kaido, nothing else really needs to be done to achieve this perspective from the audience. And the fights that really need to happen are the fights that build Luffy up so that he can master Rio and Future Sight, and he can finally look Yonko ready. The fight against Ulti, I think, was a great bailout. This is so that Luffy doesn't use too much energy on side fights. But I do think that there will be hitches to Yamato's escape because Who's Who and the All-Stars are also looking for him. So Who's Who and the All-Stars might end up confronting Luffy and Yamato. I would love to see Luffy get back at Queen, though I feel like some of the characters like Who's Who and Kid would love to do the same. Queen is basically the torturer of all the prisoners until these victims decide to join Kaido's crew. Obviously, this is a very effective method and it only takes time. Since Queen's golden Kagura is basically ruined, I think he will finally take action. But even if Luffy doesn't touch Queen at all, I think that there are plenty of potential fights ahead. I'm not too excited about the short skirmishes, but I will take what I can get. Now, I do think that one of these possible fights could be with Hawkins. He might end up delaying Yamato and Luffy before they get to the hall where they want to go. King and possibly Jack could try to take swings at Luffy because he's already with Yamato. And yes, it could be convenient to have the All-Stars escort Yamato and Luffy to Kaido, but I doubt that that would be the case, and King and Jack would probably try to stop Luffy before he even gets to Kaido. And then, Yamato starts resisting, so he could help Luffy, and we get a worthwhile fight with one or both of these commanders against Luffy and Yamato. And if Luffy fights with the other members of the Big Mom Pirates, I really do hope that it's with Snack, just because we haven't seen Snack in action. So this has been a very long video. I really tried to pack everything in as concise as possible. And if you reached this point, I know that you like the content. So please do leave a like on the video and let me know of your thoughts of the possible matchups I mentioned and which one excites you the most. Lastly, subscribe to the channel because on the next video, I will be making matchups for the Kid, Heart, and remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates, as well as the Scabbards. I won't make that video this long, so don't miss it. Stay safe. Peace.